Ooh boy, we're getting into some Middle Eastern staples today. That's right, the flatbread royalty known as garlic naan. Also, we're gonna do toum, a fluffy Lebanese garlic sauce that's simply mandatory for chicken shawarma. Do these things go together? Yes, they do. Should something else be involved, like chicken shawarma? Also yes. Do I have a recipe for chicken shawarma? No yet. Get a bowl and bloom 1 teaspoon of yeast with a tablespoon of sugar in 3/4 of a cup of lukewarm water. Luke is what we call homely, but he has a heart of gold, ma. Sidebar, this calls for melted butter 2 ways, so I'm melting it and infusing some chopped garlic. Technically, the infusing is optional though. Alright, once that yeast is in bloom, you'll want to mix 2 cups of flour, 3 tablespoons of plain yogurt, a tablespoon or so of that melted butter, a pinch or 2 of salt, and a teaspoon of sugar. Then you're going to bring these families together like yours, mine, and ours, the one with Lucille Ball and Henry Fonda, not Dennis Quaid and Rene Russo. If you don't get that reference, you have more of a life than I do. Knead it like you need oxygen or whatever. Once these are feeling ever so slightly sticky but pliable, get them back into the bowl, drizzle with another tablespoon or so of that melted butter, cover it with plastic wrap or a damp towel, which were the only 2 options at this terrible YMCA I used to go to, and let it rest in a warm, dry place for like 2 to 4 hours. Time marches on, and once again, we must roll. So let's get flour down, divide these into even portions, and shape them into a teardrop-esque shapehedron roughly 1/4 of an inch thick and longer than it is wide. Or is it wider than it is long? Existential dread aside, warm up a nice flat cast iron skillet, range, or electric griddle like I'm using here. Get them up to a nice high heat. Get out of here, Luke, with your moderation. Cook for 1 minute or 2 until you see it start to bubble and flip. Optionally brush with melted butter and garlic and chopped parsley if you have it, unlike me because I don't think about these things when I'm at the store, and you are good to go. Okay, so toum, a brilliant little emulsification, can also be finicky, but I promise it's a solvable problem. Start with an entire head of garlic, peeled and salted. The grittiness is going to give it that little bit of something to rub together and get that garlic a little finer. I'm using a stick blender, but this also works in a regular blender or food processor. Add a little bit of lemon juice and get that business into creamy consistency. Alright, now it's time to add 1/2 cup of your olive oil. I added it all at once, which was probably a mistake. You should probably ease it in while actually blending. Either way, if it breaks or it just isn't fluffying like mine is after way more minutes than I care to admit, it's time to bring in the fixer. It's just a little ice and water. Seriously, this emulsified literally seconds after I added just like a tiny little bit. Now that is fluffy. Okay, this next part is crucial. Store it in an airtight container and let it rest in the fridge overnight. This is some powerful flavor at work, and it needs time to reflect and mellow out now that it's in college and it's finding itself. But are these things good together? Yes they are. A lot of garlic though. So if you're going to Transylvania anytime soon, take that into consideration. These little friends are good with just about any Mediterranean or Middle Eastern or Indian or literally any kind of food, so don't be afraid to experiment with it. And, experiment with subscribing once in a while. Sorry, I didn't mean to come off as combative. If you try either of these recipes though, share pictures with us on Instagram. We love parasocial interaction. See you next time!